What if I told you that the future of your doctor's office, heck, the future of how doctors are even trained, can be perfectly explained by a 19th century theory about, of all things, coal? Yeah, I know, it sounds kind of weird, but stick with me because it's absolutely true. So let's get into it. This one economic twist completely flips the script on what we all assume about AI in medicine.
So it all boils down to this thing called the Jevons paradox. And really, it's a simple idea, but it's incredibly powerful. The paradox basically says that when you make something way more efficient or cheaper to use, you don't actually use less of it. It's totally counterintuitive, right? You'd think efficiency means less consumption. But nope, you end up using a ton more.
Okay, think about it like this. Back in the day with steam engines, as they got more and more efficient, nobody said, "Awesome, we can burn less coal now." Of course not. Instead, that super cheap power fueled the entire industrial revolution, and coal use it went through the roof. Well, today, medical knowledge is the new coal. AI is making it so efficient to access, we're talking practically free, that we're not going to use less of it. We are on the brink of an absolute explosion in how it's used.
And this is the key. This is the catalyst for everything else we're going to talk about. For centuries, the biggest hurdle in medicine wasn't a lack of smart people. It was the sheer effort, the mental cost of just finding the right information, understanding it, and using it right when you need it. AI is just wiping that cost away. It's dropping to zero. So what happens when the most fundamental barrier in medicine just vanishes?
Well, the first place that shockwave hits is medical school. The very foundation of how we make doctors is about to be, completely rebuilt from the ground up.
And to understand why, you just have to remember one super simple economic rule. In any system, value always flows to whatever is most scarce. And believe me, what's scarce in medicine is changing fast.
Just look at this shift from then to now. It's huge. In the past, knowledge itself was the rare thing, right? It was locked up in heavy textbooks and in the minds of a few experts. So what did we value? Memorization. A great doctor was basically a walking library. But now, knowledge is everywhere. It's abundant. It's instant. So the new scarce resource, the new source of value, is judgment. It's no longer about what you know. It's all about how you think.
And that means the curriculum has to change. Forget about endless hours of just memorizing facts. The doctors of the future, they're going to learn stuff like AI literacy and prompt engineering. Basically, how to ask the AI the perfect question. They're going to be experts at spotting bias in the data, managing risk, and navigating the super tricky ethics of all this. And here's the best part. With all that brain power freed up from just recalling facts, there's so much more time for the stuff AI can't ever touch. Genuine human empathy and communication.
This completely changes the job of a medical school professor, too. Think about it. Why would you sit through a generic lecture when an AI can give you a perfect explanation tailored just for you? So the professor's job is no longer to be a human Wikipedia. Instead, they become a guide, a human compass that helps students find their way through the really tough stuff, like clinical reasoning and ethics.
Okay, so this whole revolution doesn't just stop when you graduate. It follows doctors right out of the classroom and into the clinic. And it's going to fundamentally redefine their job, shifting it away from being a source of knowledge and toward being a center of responsibility. Now let's just tackle the biggest fear head-on, right? AI is not going to replace doctors. It's just not. What it is going to replace are tasks. The routine stuff like looking up drug interactions or brainstorming a list of possible diagnoses. And by taking that off their plate, it frees up doctors to focus on the much higher level, uniquely human work.
And this, right here, is the absolute core of why a doctor will always be essential. Because when something goes wrong, a patient doesn't sue an algorithm. They sue a human system. You can't take a piece of code to court. Accountability has to land with a person. The final responsibility for your care, that will always need a human being in the driver's seat.
So what happens is the doctor's role actually gets elevated. They become the team leader. They're the auditor for what the AI suggests. They're the risk manager. And maybe most importantly, they're the final interpreter who takes all this incredible data and applies it to the one-of-a-kind human beings sitting right in front of them.
And one of the most exciting things to come out of this is the rise of what you could call the super generalist. Imagine your primary care doctor, but now they're armed with instant access to the knowledge of every specialist. They'll be able to handle way more complex cases on their own, which could be a total game changer for making healthcare faster and more accessible for everyone.
Okay, I know this might all sound like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it is happening,
And it's happening a lot faster than you probably think. So let's actually walk through a realistic timeline for how this is all going to roll out.
Believe it or not, we're already in the first phase. Tech-savvy doctors are using AI tools on their phones right now, kind of under the table. Pretty soon, though, you'll see those tools baked right into our electronic health records. Then, by the early 2030s, this is going to be the new normal. Using AI will be the standard of care, and board exams will literally test doctors on how well they use it. And after that, we're looking at a period of hyper-expansion, where medical schools could become these global platforms, training way more people to meet this incredible new demand.
So let's bring this all back home, back to that 19th century idea about coal. The most surprising thing, the most counterintuitive result of making medical knowledge nearly free isn't that we'll need fewer doctors or less healthcare. No way. It's the complete opposite.
I mean, the scale of this is it's staggering. Get this, by the early 2030s, your doctor will likely be processing more than 10 times the amount of medical data for you than they do today. Every single decision will be backed by this ocean of information that, before now, was just impossible to access.
And really, that's the bottom line here. The Jevons paradox tells us that the future holds more medicine, not less. We're going to be asking more questions, looking into more conditions, and delivering care that's hyper-personalized, but on a massive scale. Healthcare isn't going to shrink. It's going to expand in ways we can barely imagine.
You know, this one idea really sums up the entire shift perfectly. The doctors of the future, they won't be measured by what they know off the top of their head. They'll be measured by the quality of the questions they ask. It's about wisdom and curiosity, not just memory.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. In this new world, where the quality of questions really does define the quality of care, what's the one question you would want your doctor to be sure to ask?